Welcome to a world where wonder meets worry, a realm where concrete coexists with the abstract, the unexplained, the unexplored, and the unseen. Open your mind and open the door to the dimension of the unknown. Plane abduction. Okay, this isn't my story, but my mom's. She's 52 now, but this happened around the year 2000. She was on an overnight flight from Barcelona back to where she was living, which was about 11 hours, I think. Her and her boyfriend were flying together, sitting next to each other. They both settled in and went to sleep, staying asleep for pretty much the whole flight. Both got up to pee a couple of times and went back to sleep. A normal flight, nothing out of the ordinary. When the flight landed, they got up and got their luggage, and they went to meet the friend who was picking them up outside of the airport. That's when he noticed a strange symbol on my mom's chest. It looked like a branding. The symbol was a medium-sized circle with a cross inside, with lines from the cross slightly extending outside the circle. I'm trying to get my mom to find a pic. The symbol was large on her chest and a deep reddish purple. It didn't hurt. It wasn't raw or itchy or anything, and she had no idea how it happened. All of her friends thought that it would leave a scar, but it never did. It faded away after like 4 or 5 days. It did this by slowly peeling off, like her skin was peeling from a burn. She told me when her friends tried to photograph it, it didn't look right in the photo. The symbol looked almost distorted on the camera, I think. They called the airline to see if anyone else on the flight had reported a strange experience, but no one did. She told me the story in depth recently, and I wanted to do some real research since it's been so long. I want to know what other people think. Questions and any comments are much appreciated. Seeing the same sleep paralysis demon in the same dream repeatedly. Several years ago, I had a horrible and extremely vivid sleep paralysis dream. I was moving out of a very old, broken down house that I was living in, and my brother was helping me. This place was a dump. The walls and floors were old gray wood. The lights didn't work. It had steep, narrow staircases, leaves in the corner, etc. It was turning dusk, and my brother had gone down to put a box of stuff in the car. I was alone in the living room, and suddenly it started to get dark. It was like a thick, suffocating darkness that started in one corner of the room and spread out. As soon as it touched me, I couldn't move and could barely breathe. I got a strong feeling of dread and terror, and then to make matters worse, I saw something whitish in the corner where the dark had started, and it was moving steadily towards me. It was close enough so that I could see it. It was a tall woman in a white dress with long black hair that touched the floor. I was then close enough to see that her face was all messed up. She had no features, just empty dark places, except for her eyes. I couldn't even try to describe them. At this point, I was trying to scream, but couldn't move or work my mouth. As soon as I could see her face, she flew forward, and the last thing I saw was her face up close and a sense of being strangled. This still gives me the chills to think about. I woke up and was paralyzed, and it took me what seemed like forever to gain movement back. I was very disturbed by the dream and didn't sleep anymore that night for fear it would happen again. Well, a good 6 months later, the exact same dream started, except now it was my brother and my ex helping me move. I was begging them to go faster and that we needed to leave, and not to leave me alone, but they weren't worried and wouldn't hurry. At one point, I turned around and realized that they had both carried something down to the car, and I was all alone, again. The darkness started to build, and I saw a blurry white shape in the kitchen corner. I screamed and thrashed and made such a big fuss I woke myself up before anything else could happen. Now, just last night, the same dream started. This time, now a lot wiser, I refused to get out of the car and go in the house to move my stuff, leaving my brother very exasperated. The dream eventually changed, and I woke up this morning with a sense of relief. Has anyone else experienced something like this? I'm fully convinced that this is a sleep paralysis demon and can only get me into paralysis through that dream. I never have sleep paralysis when I sleep, so I have never seen something in my room in the physical world. But I have occasionally experienced paralysis once I'm asleep and dreaming. Also, I forgot to mention, the lady didn't walk, she floated. There's something in the woods. I have seen hundreds of these things at night, in the woods, in the rural areas of Memphis, starting around 2020. They're tall, humanoid creatures with blacked out eyes, and they move slowly in a strange, jerky movement. The first time I saw them, I was visiting a veteran friend of mine who was down on his luck about midnight of Thanksgiving Day in 2020. He had been living in a rundown camper vehicle at the edge of the woods on his brother's property. Between his camper and the tree line, there were the remains of an old trailer that had been destroyed by a tornado with a streetlight on top of the pole that was used to run electricity to the destroyed mobile home. On the other side of the pole was approximately 15 yards of a field that an old dirt road that split it in half with tall grass and brush at the edge of the far side of the field, after which the tree line started. I thought that they were people hiding at first, as they seemed to be grouping more in the darker areas where the light from the pole was not as bright. I asked my friend about them, and he shrugged it off and said that they were always there, and they didn't bother him. He also told me that no matter what you did, that you couldn't get close to one. So being a combat veteran with 2 deployments under my belt, and my personal firearm for my vehicle, I attempted to approach these things. As I got closer, I noticed that they were solid white creatures with solid black eye sockets that moved in a jerky but slow manner. There had to be about 50 or more in that field down the dirt road, and at the edge of the tree line and beyond. Determined to let something mess around and find out, I continued to walk towards them, and then all of a sudden, they all looked at me with black, empty-looking sockets, and instantly caused me to feel more fear than I had ever remember having in my life before. I did not approach them that night. I turned away and got out of the area, and I took my buddy with me to stay with me at my place for a few days. Since that first time I've seen them, I've encountered them a dozen more times since. Always at night and around wooded areas at all different locations. I have since tried to run and catch them and fail, because the creatures simply disappeared the moment I closed in 5 to 10 yards and lost direct eye contact for a mere flash. It's like they can phase in or out or something. If you get in close, you can see that the weird, jerky movement is part of them. Arms, legs, head. They're all disappearing, then reappearing in a different position. I think they disappear anytime they move so that they cannot be seen if they walk. I've pumped 45 incendiary rounds from my AR-15 into one without a single shred of evidence of it left behind. These things do make audible noises that can be recorded, but do not show up on video from a cell phone or old analog camcorders with cassette tapes. Animals also see them. However, I have tried to show them to people, and only about half of those I've shown have been able to see them. I've wondered if I was losing my mind, and if anyone else has seen them or tried other experiments with them. I've searched all over the internet and only found a few cryptid creatures that share 1 or 2 similar things with them, but nothing that was close enough for me to be satisfied. The only thing that was really close was the origin of white zombies, sort of. There's been a few people to tell me that this is a shape-shifting creature, but they don't change or bleed. They seem to be different sizes, some larger and some smaller, and they group up in what I have come to call family clusters. 4 to 5 of them, usually with 2 taller ones and 1 or 2 smaller ones. Please let me know if you have any ideas on what they could be, or if you have seen them before in the comments below. Today's stories came from the R Paranormal, R Paranormal Encounters, and the R Alienabduction subreddit. If you enjoyed the stories, please like and subscribe for further uploads. Goodbye.